The train slows as it approaches the station, the rhythmic clatter of wheels on tracks softening until it fades into silence. The doors open, and with a single step, you leave the steel and concrete world behind. Before you lies a city unlike any other, a city that does not smell of asphalt or gasoline, but of salt and stone, of water that has brushed against its foundations for centuries. It is midnight in Venice, and your journey begins. Santa Lucia station feels almost ordinary. At first, bright lights, tiled floors, the low hum of late travelers. But when you step outside, the city reveals itself immediately. Instead of streets filled with cars, there is water stretching wide before you in the form of the Grand Canal, a highway of liquid silver flowing through the heart of Venice. Gondolas and vaporetti rest quietly at the docks, their silhouettes swaying gently against the posts, their ropes creaking with each shift of the tide. Lanterns reflect in the water, doubling their glow in trembling streaks of gold and orange. The air is cooler here than it was inland, carrying with it the sharp scent of salt mixed with a faint trace of seaweed. There is a freshness, but also something older, a dampness that belongs to stone walls and centuries of history. You pause for a moment, simply listening. The city is quiet, though never silent. The water laps softly against stone steps. A distant bell tolls the hour, its echo rolling across the rooftops. Somewhere down the canal, a motorboat hums faintly, then fades into nothingness. Your walk begins along the canal's edge. By day, the Grand Canal is alive, with movement gondolas gliding past, ferries packed with commuters, the shouts of gondoliers carrying across the water. But at midnight, the canal rests. It stretches wide and calm, reflecting the facades of ancient palazzi that line its banks. These buildings, with their arched windows and ornate balconies, stand tall and silent, their colors muted in the moonlight. Once, they were homes to merchants, nobles, and doges, their halls filled with music and masked revelry. Tonight, they are quiet witnesses, watching over the sleeping city. You cross the first of many bridges. The stone beneath your feet is cool and worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The bridge arches gracefully, its balustrade simple, its presence practical yet poetic. From its center, you stop to look down the canal. The view is breathtaking. Palazzi stretching into the distance, their facades shimmering on the water's surface, lanterns casting long reflections that tremble with each ripple. Gondolas bob gently, their iron prows the distinctive faro, catching faint glints of light. A gondolier sits in one of them, not working but resting. He leans against the seat, his striped shirt faint under the lantern glow, his straw hat tilted low over his brow. He is humming softly, the sound carrying just far enough for you to catch its rhythm. It is not a song for an audience, but a tune for himself, for the night, for the water that cradles him. You linger for a moment, then move on, leaving him to his solitude. The alleys beyond the canal pull you inward, narrow and winding. They are more like corridors than streets, flanked by walls of faded plaster and shuttered windows. By day, they are crowded with tourists, voices bouncing off the stone. But now, at midnight, they belong to silence. Your footsteps echo, the sound crisp and sharp. Occasionally, the alley widens into a small square, a campo, where a well stands at its center, a reminder of when Venetians once gathered rainwater for their daily needs. Cats slip through the shadows, their tails high, their eyes catching the faint glow of lanterns. You pause at one such square. The well is capped with iron, its stone edges smooth from centuries of hands. Around it, the houses rise in uneven heights, their walls patched and weathered, painted in shades of ochre, rose, and pale cream. Laundry still hangs from a balcony, forgotten in the night, swaying gently in the breeze. A single lantern illuminates the square, its light golden, its shadows long. You stand there for a while, absorbing the stillness, the feeling of stepping back into another time. Farther along, you hear the faint splash of water. Turning a corner, you find another canal, narrower than the Grand, its surface calm and dark. A small bridge crosses over it, its arch simple, its stones uneven. You lean against its railing and look down. The water mirrors the walls on either side. Green shutters, flower boxes, cracked plaster, distorted into wavy patterns by the ripples. The reflection feels like another Venice below the surface, a dream version of the city that exists only at night. From somewhere nearby, the sound of footsteps approaches. They are slow, deliberate, echoing through the alley until a figure emerges, a man in a dark coat, carrying a bag of bread. He nods politely as he passes, his face calm, his pace unhurried. A baker, perhaps, heading to his shop to begin the morning's work before dawn. In Venice, the city never truly sleeps, it shifts, passing from one rhythm to another. The path leads you toward the Grand Canal once more, where a Vaporetto station rests empty. The floating platform creaks softly against the water, its roof lit by a pair of yellow bulbs. Across the canal, another row of palazzi stands, their reflections shimmering in the current. A motorboat glides past, its wake spreading outward, rocking the gondolas tied nearby. For a moment, the water seems alive with motion, then settles again into its calm rhythm. You continue walking, each turn of the alley bringing something new. A tiny courtyard where ivy climbs across the walls. A church facade, its doors closed but its statues watching from above. A row of windows lit faintly from within, the shadows of people moving quietly inside. The city feels both empty and full, empty of noise and crowds, full of history, presence, and quiet life unfolding behind the walls. Eventually, your steps bring you to the Rialto Bridge, one of Venice's most iconic landmarks. By day, it is crowded with tourists, its shops bustling, its steps alive with chatter. But now, at midnight, it is yours alone. You climb the steps slowly, each one worn smooth, until you reach the top. From here, the Grand Canal stretches wide in both directions, lined with palazzi glowing faintly under scattered lights. The water glimmers, carrying the reflections of lanterns, windows, and stars. You stand there for a long moment, gazing outward. The city feels suspended, floating not just on water, but on time itself. Venice at midnight is not the Venice of postcards or busy piazzas. It is quieter, deeper, more intimate. A city that reveals its secrets only to those who wander when the world sleeps. And so your midnight walk has begun. From the crest of the Rialto Bridge, you take one last look over the Grand Canal. The water gleams under the scattered lights of lanterns and windows, each reflection trembling gently across the surface. A gondola drifts below, empty, its oar resting still. In the distance, a Vaporetto glides silently past, its engine a low hum, its deck nearly deserted at this hour. The bridge itself, often so crowded in daylight that one can hardly pause, now belongs to you alone. The silence of Venice at night feels like a gift. You descend the stone steps, your footsteps echoing softly. At the bottom, narrow lanes stretch in several directions, twisting unpredictably as if daring you to lose your way. And so you choose one, trusting the path, knowing that in Venice, every road, no matter how winding, eventually leads you back to the water. The alleys are quiet now, the shuttered windows above you hiding the lives within. The facades of the buildings bear the weight of centuries, plaster cracked, bricks exposed, wooden beams weathered by time and tide. A laundry line still hangs overhead, empty now, the clothespins rattling lightly in the breeze. The air carries the damp scent of the canals, tinged with something metallic, as though the stones themselves breathe after a day in the sun. You pass under a low archway, its stones rough and worn smooth in equal measure. Emerging on the other side, you find yourself in a small square, a campo. By day, such squares are alive with children playing, merchants selling, tourists pausing for photographs. But now, It lies empty. A single street lamp stands in one corner, its glow soft and golden, casting long shadows across the flagstones. In the center, as in so many Venetian squares, a well rises from the ground, capped with iron, its edges smooth from centuries of hands drawing water. Cats move quietly across the square, one slipping onto a balcony, another pausing to watch you with curious green eyes before vanishing into the shadows. From here, you choose another alley, narrower this time. The walls lean close, their plaster painted in shades of pale pink, ochre, and white. Some of the paint has faded, chipped away to reveal layers beneath history revealed in colors stacked like memories. The silence is broken only by your own steps and the occasional drip of water falling from a gutter into the canal below. At last, you reach another bridge, smaller than the Rialto, but no less graceful. Its stone balustrades arch over a quiet canal, the water dark and still. A single gondola is tied nearby, its black hull gleaming faintly, its iron ferrule catching the glow of the lantern above. The water reflects the shuttered windows and flower boxes of the houses that line the canal, creating a wavering mirror of the world above. You lean against the railing, watching the reflection ripple with each subtle movement of the water, as though Venice itself were dreaming beneath the surface. Continuing on, you find the alleys growing slightly wider. The signs begin to change, small arrows painted on walls or wooden boards, indicating the way toward San Marco. Though the alleys still twist and turn, the city gently guides you onward, pulling you closer to its most famous heart. Along the way, the buildings grow grander. Balconies are carved with intricate stone, archways more elaborate, doors tall and heavy, with iron knockers shaped like lions or serpents. Even in darkness, Venice reveals its artistry. You pass a shop window, closed now, but still filled with masks brightly painted, feathered, gilded. Their faces stare outward, frozen in expressions of laughter, mischief, or mystery. The tradition of the Venetian mask is centuries old, born from festivals like Carnevale, where identity was hidden and freedom found behind painted porcelain. At night, though, the masks seem different, less playful, more enigmatic, as if their silence holds secrets not meant for the light of day. Turning another corner, you hear the faint trickle of water. A fountain gurgles in the corner of a courtyard, its basin filled with coins tossed by hopeful hands. The sound mingles with the distant lapping of the canals, creating a melody of water that is uniquely Venetian. You pause, listening, before moving on. As the alleys stretch onward, the sound of your footsteps changes. The stones beneath you are smoother here, broader, as though leading towards something greater. And then, suddenly, the narrow path opens wide. You step into an immense space, and before you lies the Piazza San Marco St. Mark's Square, the most famous in Venice, now bathed in moonlight. The square at midnight is not the bustling hub it is by day. The cafes that line its edges, Florian, Quadri, Lavenna, are closed, their chairs stacked neatly, their tables bare. The orchestras that play here during the evenings have long since gone silent. The pigeons that fill the air in daylight roost quietly in the arches, their coos faint but steady. Yet even in this stillness, the piazza feels alive. Its scale, its history, its presence all resonate in the silence. To your left rises the Campanile, the great bell tower of San Marco. Its red brick shaft stretches high into the night, its pyramidal spire crowned with a golden weather vane shaped like the Archangel Gabriel. By day, it is crowded with visitors, eager to climb and see the view across the lagoon. Tonight, it is a silent sentinel, standing watch over the square, its shadow stretching long across the flagstones. Directly ahead, the Basilica di San Marco glows faintly in the moonlight. Its domes rise like pale silver shells, its facade an intricate tapestry of arches, columns, and mosaics. Even in near darkness, you can glimpse the shimmer of gold from the mosaics above the arches, catching what little light there is and reflecting it back in subtle gleams. The horses of St. Mark, replicas of the ancient bronzes taken from Constantinople, stand above the central arch, their forms proud even in shadow. The basilica feels eternal, a blend of East and West, Byzantine and Venetian, sacred and worldly. To the right, the long arcades of the Procuratie line the square. Their arches stretch endlessly, a rhythm of stone and shadow, broken only by lanterns casting soft pools of light. In daylight, the arcades are filled with shops and cafes, bustling with activity. Now, they are quiet, the arches framing the emptiness of the square like pages waiting to be written upon. You step slowly across the piazza, your footsteps echoing faintly. The square is vast, and without the noise of crowds, it feels even larger. You imagine the centuries of life it has witnessed: processions, festivals, floods, ceremonies, even Napoleon declaring it the drawing room of Europe. Tonight, it belongs only to the night and to you. At the far end of the square rises the Palazzo Ducale, the Doge's palace. Its Gothic facade, with its lace-like tracery of arches and quatrefoils, appears delicate yet powerful. For centuries, this was the seat of Venice's government, its center of power. Inside, Doges ruled, councils debated, and decisions were made that shaped the fate of an empire. From its windows, laws were proclaimed, alliances forged, sentences passed. Now, it stands in silence, its beauty softened by moonlight, its power remembered in the stillness. Beside the palace, two great columns rise at the edge of the waterfront, one crowned with the winged lion of St. Mark, the other with St. Theodore, Venice's first patron saint. Between them, criminals were once executed, and even now, Venetians avoid walking directly between the columns, a superstition passed down through generations. Tonight, they are simply guardians, standing tall against the lagoon beyond. You pause here, at the edge of the square, and gaze outward. The lagoon stretches wide, its surface catching the glow of the moon. Across the water, the silhouette of San Giorgio Maggiore rises, its church dome and campanile faint but clear against the horizon. Boats rest quietly along the docks, their masts swaying gently, their hulls rocking in rhythm with the tide. The air carries the scent of salt and seaweed, sharper here than in the alleys, fresher, open. The square behind you is silent, the lagoon before you infinite. It feels as though you stand at the threshold of two worlds, the built majesty of Venice and the vast openness of the sea. Both are timeless, both eternal, both deeply tied to the spirit of this city. You linger for a long while, letting the silence sink in before continuing your walk. The night in Venice is far from over, and many more paths still await. ChatGPT said, "Excellent. Let's continue with part 3, Gondolas and the Lagoon of a Midnight Walk in Venice. Gondolas, lanterns, and hidden canals." This section is 15 characters, 402, 600 words, written in the same immersive narration style, focusing on Venice's gondolas, the waterfront promenade, and the vast, quiet lagoon under the moonlight, a midnight walk in Venice. Part 3, Gondolas and the Lagoon. At the edge of Piazza San Marco, the stone paving meets the water. Here the lagoon stretches wide, its surface calm and dark, broken only by the faint shimmer of moonlight and the gentle rocking of gondolas tied to their posts. By day, this promenade is alive, with movement crowds pressed against the railings, gondoliers calling out to tourists, boats coming and going in endless rhythm. But at midnight, it is transformed. The noise has faded, the air has cooled, and the lagoon has claimed the city with its own quiet authority. You walk toward the gondolas. Dozens of them are moored, side by side, their curved hulls black and sleek, their iron prows gleaming faintly in the lantern light. The wooden posts they are tied to creak softly as the water shifts, and the gondolas themselves rise and fall in gentle rhythm, like sleepers breathing in the dark. The sound is hypnotic. the slap of water against hulls, the faint squeak of ropes, the creak of wood. It is as though the lagoon itself sings a lullaby to its vessels. The gondolas, so full of life during the day, now rest. Their interiors are covered with protective tarps, their cushions hidden away, their oars stored carefully on the docks. Yet even in stillness, they seem elegant, poised as if ready to glide into the night at a moment's notice. Each one bears the distinctive ferro at its prow, the curved iron piece that serves both as ornament and balance. Its shape is said to symbolize the city itself, the 6 prongs representing Venice's districts, the arch symbolizing the Grand Canal, the curve recalling the Doge's cap. Even at rest, each gondola carries the identity of the city in its form. You pause at the edge of the dock, looking out across the lagoon. The view is vast, open, unlike the enclosed intimacy of the canals. Across the water, the island of San Giorgio Maggiore rises in silhouette, its church dome and campanile pale against the horizon. The church, designed by Palladio, is one of Venice's most striking landmarks. But tonight it feels distant, quiet, like a sentinel watching over the lagoon. Lights glimmer faintly from its shore, mirrored in the water below. The air here is sharper, fresher. The scent of salt is stronger, mingled with seaweed and the faint trace of wood from the boats. The breeze carries a coolness that brushes against your face, lifting the dampness from the alleys behind. The sounds are different, too broader, more expansive. The water does not whisper here as it does in the canals. It sighs, a vast and steady rhythm that fills the space between city and sea. Along the promenade, a row of lanterns casts pools of golden light across the paving stones. Their reflections shimmer in the water, stretching outward like fingers of fire. You follow their line, walking slowly, the sound of your footsteps mingling with the water's voice. Occasionally, a boat passes in the distance, its light swaying across the waves. The motor is faint, subdued, easily absorbed by the immensity of the lagoon. Near the gondolas, a solitary gondolier sits on a bench. His striped shirt is half hidden by a dark jacket, his straw hat resting beside him. He smokes quietly, the ember of his cigarette glowing in the dark, the smoke curling upward before dissolving into the night. He does not look at you, nor you at him, yet his presence feels essential part of the rhythm of the city at rest. By day, he guides visitors through winding canals, his voice calling, his oar steady. By night, he sits in silence, listening to the same water that has been his livelihood for years. You stop at a wooden pier that juts into the lagoon. The planks creak softly beneath your weight as you step out over the water. From here, the view is even more striking. The gondolas sway gently around you, their shadows long and wavering. The lagoon stretches vast, silver under the moonlight, black in the depths. The islands beyond San Giorgio, Giudecca, Lido, seem to hover at the edge of vision, part of the world yet removed from it. You sit for a moment at the end of the pier, your legs dangling just above the water. The sound here is immersive, the slap of waves against wood, the groan of ropes, the sigh of the tide. Each sound is distinct yet blended, a chorus composed entirely by the lagoon. The city behind you feels distant, its stones and alleys softened by the vast openness of the water before you. Venice is often called fragile, a city at risk from the rising tides. Sitting here, you understand why. The water is both its foundation and its threat, its lifeblood and its burden. It cradles the city, but it also claims it inch by inch, flood by flood. Yet tonight, in this calm, the lagoon feels not threatening, but protective, as though it holds Venice gently, rocking it like a cradle. You rise again and continue along the promenade. The Doge's palace looms to your left, its Gothic tracery delicate even in shadow, while the columns of St. Mark and St. Theodore rise before you, their statues watching over the waterfront. Beyond them, the open lagoon stretches endlessly, merging with the horizon. Farther along, A small cluster of fishermen prepare their boats for the early morning. They move quietly, their nets coiled, their lanterns glowing dimly. One bends to check a rope, another adjusts a sail. They speak little, their movements practiced, efficient, shaped by years of rhythm. To them, the lagoon is not only beautiful, but necessary. A living partner that provides food, livelihood, continuity. You stop once more to look back at the gondolas. Their shapes, their stillness, their elegance, everything about them feels timeless. They are not relics, not decorations for tourists alone, but symbols of a city that has always lived in balance with the water. To watch them resting now is to see Venice itself at rest. The night grows deeper, the moon climbing higher, its light brightening as the world grows quieter. The lagoon reflects it all, the lanterns, the stars, the shadows of boats holding the entire scene in its shifting silver embrace. You take a long breath of the cool night air, and then continue your walk, leaving the gondolas to their midnight slumber. Leaving the lagoon behind, you turn once more into the labyrinth of alleys that lace Venice together like threads in a tapestry. The promenade's open air fades quickly, replaced by the close embrace of narrow passageways. Here, the walls lean in, their plaster cracked and weathered, painted in shades of pale pink, ochre, and faded green. The alleys twist and bend, some so narrow you can touch both sides with outstretched arms. The sound changes immediately. Gone is the open sigh of the lagoon. Here, every footstep echoes, bouncing between stone walls. Somewhere ahead, water laps faintly against a canal, though you cannot yet see it. A cat darts across your path, disappearing into the shadows of a doorway, its eyes gleaming briefly in the lantern glow. The night air is cool and damp, carrying the faint scent of moss that clings to the stones where water has risen and receded countless times. Soon, the alley opens onto a small bridge. You climb its worn steps, the stone uneven from centuries of passage. At the crest, you pause. Below lies one of Venice's many minor canals, narrow and quiet, its water green-black under the moonlight. The houses on either side rise directly from the water, their walls marked with tide lines, their windows shuttered tight. Flower boxes lean over balconies, their blossoms closed for the night, their leaves brushing faintly against the walls. The water reflects all of it, the lantern, the balcony, even your silhouette standing on the bridge distorted into rippling patterns that make the world above seem like a dream below. You lean against the balustrade and listen. The canal is silent save for the faint slap of water against stone. No boats pass here now. No gondolas, no vaporetti, only stillness. In the distance, you hear the faint creak of another bridge, the sound of wood shifting in the night breeze. A dog barks once, then falls silent. It feels as though the city itself has fallen asleep, leaving you alone with its reflections. Crossing the bridge, you follow another twisting alley, this one narrowing further until it feels more like a corridor than a street. The ground slopes gently downward until, without warning, you emerge into a courtyard. At its center stands a stone well, capped with iron. The ground around it is uneven, patches of grass growing between the stones. Above, balconies lean precariously, their railings crooked, their shutters closed. A lantern glows faintly on one wall, its light just enough to reveal faded frescoes, remnants of color and design from centuries past, now barely clinging to the plaster. You sit for a moment on the edge of the well. The courtyard is empty, silent, forgotten. It feels like stepping into another time, a place where the centuries overlap, where past and present coexist quietly. You imagine Venetians of old drawing water here, children playing, merchants discussing their trade. The courtyard holds those echoes still, and at midnight, with no one else around, you can almost hear them. Continuing onward, you follow a path that runs directly beside a narrow canal. The water here is so close, you could trail your hand in it if you wished. Moss clings thickly to the stones, damp and fragrant. A gondola is tied nearby, covered with a tarp. Its shadow stretches across the water, long and ghostly. Above, laundry still hangs from a balcony, forgotten in the night, swaying gently in the breeze. The scene feels suspended, as if painted onto the darkness. Turning another corner, you cross a wooden bridge, its planks creaking softly beneath your feet. From its center, you look down and see the water glimmer faintly with starlight, broken occasionally by ripples. The bridge itself feels old, its railings worn smooth by countless hands, its boards weathered but sturdy. Standing here, you realize how deeply water shapes the soundscape of the city. Every step, every echo, every movement is softened, reflected, absorbed by the canals. Beyond the bridge, the alley climbs upward. You follow it, passing a row of small doors that open directly onto the water. Each door is marked with tide stains, the wood darkened where the lagoon has risen. Some are painted in fading blues or greens, others left bare, their grain worn by salt and time. These doors, once used for unloading goods directly into homes, now seem like relics, reminders of Venice's life as a working port. You emerge again into a wider square, this one brighter, with 2 lanterns casting golden pools across the stones. A church rises at one side, its facade plain but dignified, its bell tower leaning slightly as if tired from centuries of standing watch. The doors are closed, but you can see the faint glow of candles inside through a narrow window. The scent of wax and incense drifts faintly outward, mingling with the night air. Across the square, a tavern still glows faintly with light. A few locals sit at a table outside, their voices low, their laughter soft. They sip from small glasses of wine, their conversation punctuated by the occasional gesture or chuckle. It is not the raucous sound of a bar, but the gentle rhythm of neighbors sharing the end of a day. You pass quietly, nodding and greeting. They nod back, and though no words are exchanged, the moment feels warm, genuine. Beyond the square, the alleys twist again, leading you deeper into the hidden Venice. You pass walls covered in ivy, balconies overflowing with flowers, doorways framed with stone arches. At one corner, a shrine is built into the wall, a small alcove with a statue of the Virgin Mary, candles burning softly at its base. Even at midnight, the candles flicker, tended by unseen hands, their flames steady, their light golden against the plaster. The next canal you reach is narrower still, so tight that a gondola would barely fit. A tiny bridge spans it, its stones uneven, its railings simple. You cross slowly, pausing in the middle. The water below is perfectly still, a black mirror reflecting the lantern behind you. For a moment, it feels as though you are standing not on a bridge, but between 2 worlds, the Venice above and the Venice reflected below. Deeper into the alleys, you find another courtyard, smaller than the last. This one is almost completely hidden, reached only through a narrow passage barely wide enough for one person. Inside, the space feels secret, protected. A single tree grows here, its branches stretching over the stones, its leaves shimmering in the moonlight. A bench sits beneath it, worn smooth, its wood weathered but sturdy. You sit for a while, listening to the faint sounds of water and wind. The hidden garden feels like a sanctuary, a place where time slows even more, where the city reveals its gentlest self. When you rise again, the alleys draw you onward. Each turn reveals something new. A balcony with wrought iron railings curling like vines. A door painted bright red against pale plaster. A window box overflowing with geraniums even in the night. Each detail feels significant, part of the city's larger story. Venice is not only grand palaces and crowded piazzas. It is also these hidden canals, these secret courtyards, these quiet corners that few take the time to see. Eventually, you reach another bridge. From its center, you pause one more time, gazing down at the water. A gondola passes slowly beneath you, rowed not for tourists, but for purpose. The gondolier moves steadily, his oar dipping into the water with a soft splash, his figure silhouetted against the lantern light. He does not call out, does not sing, does not even look up. He is simply part of the night's rhythm, his passage another note in the city's midnight song. You watch until the gondola disappears into the shadows, then continue your walk. The hidden canals of Venice have revealed themselves quiet, secret, timeless. And as you move deeper into the night, you realize that this is the true Venice, the one that exists beyond the postcards and the crowds. A city of reflections and whispers, of courtyards and shadows, of beauty found not in grandeur alone, but in the smallest, quietest corners. The hidden canals fade behind you as the alleys widen once more, leading you toward a quieter campo. Lanterns glow from a row of tavernas that are still open, their lights spilling across the stones, their doors wide to welcome the late-night wanderers. Though most of Venice has grown silent, these places hum softly with life. Here, food and drink carry on traditions older than the city itself, reminding you that Venice is not only seen and walked, but tasted. A chalkboard leans against one doorway, its menu written in quick, slanting handwriting, Cicchetti e vino. The word cicchetti is the key. These are Venetian small plates, the city's answer to tapas, meant for sharing, sampling, and lingering. Inside, a long wooden counter is covered with platters, fried calamari, marinated anchovies, small crostini topped with bacala mantecato, a creamy spread made from salt cod whipped with olive oil. There are meatballs, olives, polenta squares, thin slices of salami, and plates of tiny sandwiches called tramezzini, their bread soft and edges neatly cut. Each dish is simple, yet packed with flavor, drawn from centuries of maritime trade and local ingenuity. You step inside, greeted by the warm scent of fried seafood and garlic. The bartender nods, pours a glass of local wine, and slides it across the counter. It is a crisp white, light and bright, with just enough sharpness to cut through the richness of the cicchetti. Around you, a handful of locals sit at the bar, their conversation soft, their laughter subdued but genuine. They speak quickly in Venetian dialect, words rising and falling like waves. Though you cannot catch every phrase, the rhythm is comforting, part of the atmosphere. You take a plate of cicchetti, one crostini with salt cod, another with tomato and basil, a small skewer of olives, and find a seat near the window. Outside, the reflections of lanterns shimmer on the canal. Inside, the clink of glasses and the scrape of cutlery mingle with the low hum of conversation. The flavors are simple but vivid. The salt of the sea, the tang of lemon, the earthy richness of polenta. Each bite feels tied to the place itself, born from water, stone, and history. After a while, you finish your plate and step back outside. The air feels fresher after the warmth of the tavern, carrying with it the mingled scents of fried fish and the sea. You walk slowly, passing other tavernas still open, each with its own cluster of late-night guests. Some sit outside, gathered at small tables under lantern light. Others linger at the bar inside, their glasses raised, their voices weaving together. One doorway catches your attention. Inside, the shelves are lined with bottles of Prosecco and Spritz, their colors bright against the dark wood. A group of friends stands near the counter, their glasses filled with the unmistakable orange red of the Venetian Aperol Spritz. The drink, made with Prosecco, soda, and bitter orange liqueur, glows like fire under the dim lights. They laugh, clinking glasses, their voices carrying into the alley. The Spritz has become a symbol of Venice, bright, lively, a drink for company and conversation. You smile at the sight, then move on, content simply to witness the warmth of their gathering. Further along, the alley opens onto another square. Here, a cafe still serves pastries to those unwilling to let the night end too soon. Through the window, trays of frittole, small fried donuts, dusted with sugar glimmer under the light. Another tray holds slices of torta di nocciole, a hazelnut cake that smells rich and nutty even from outside. You pause, tempted, then step inside. The air is sweet, warm, fragrant. You order a single fritola, the sugar clinging to your fingers as you take the first bite. It is crisp on the outside, soft within, the sweetness balanced by a faint touch of citrus zest. Simple, satisfying, timeless. You leave the cafe and continue your walk, the sweetness lingering. The night feels fuller now, enriched by the flavors of the city. In Venice, food is never only about taste. It is about tradition, memory, and connection. Every plate tells a story of trade routes that once stretched across seas, of fishermen who brought their catch to market, of families who passed recipes down through generations. To taste Venice is to taste history, alive and present in every bite. Passing another canal, you hear music. It is faint, drifting from a small bar tucked into the corner of the alley. You step closer and see an old man sitting on a stool outside, a guitar resting on his lap. He strums slowly, the notes soft, the melody familiar yet unplaceable. His voice joins the guitar, low and worn but steady. He sings not for applause, but for himself, for the night, for the city. A few people listen quietly, glasses in hand, their heads nodding gently with the rhythm. You linger at the edge of the canal, letting the music wash over you. It feels like the essence of Venice, unhurried, intimate, eternal. As the song ends, you continue on, the notes still echoing in your mind. The alleys narrow again, then open unexpectedly into a larger square. Here, another group of people sit at tables beneath tall arcades, sipping small cups of espresso even at this late hour. Italians are never far from their coffee, and in Venice, it is as much a ritual at midnight as in the morning. The rich, bitter scent drifts across the square, mingling with the salt air. At one table, an older couple sits close together, speaking in hushed tones, their hands brushing lightly as they sip. At another, a group of students laugh over pastries and wine, their energy bright even as the night deepens. These small gatherings, scattered across the city, are reminders that Venice is not only a museum of stone and water, but a living place where life continues quietly after the crowds have gone. You move slowly now, letting the flavors and sounds linger. The wine, the cicchetti, the pastries, the music, all have woven together into a tapestry of culture that defines Venice as much as its canals and bridges. This is the city's true heart, found not only in its grand piazzas or famous landmarks, but in the tavernas tucked into narrow alleys, in the songs sung to the water, in the glasses raised at midnight under lantern light. Eventually, the tavernas grow fewer, their doors closing one by one as the night deepens. The squares empty, the voices fade, and the city grows quieter once more. Yet the memory of the flavors lingers: the salt of the sea, the sweetness of pastry, the crispness of wine. Venice has shared its table with you, and in doing so, has shared a part of its soul. You turn down another alley, the sound of your footsteps echoing once more. The canals are still, the lanterns soft. The city rests, its heartbeat slowed. But within its stones, its waters, its traditions, the essence of life remains timeless, enduring, waiting to be discovered again with every step, every taste, every note of music drifting into the night. The tavernas have closed, their lights dimmed, their laughter fading into memory. The alleys grow quieter now, the echoes of your footsteps the only sound besides the water's steady rhythm. Midnight deepens, and with it comes a shift in Venice's presence. In the stillness, you begin to sense the layers of time beneath your feet. Every stone, every wall, every bridge carries a memory, a story, a fragment of a past that still breathes in the night air. You walk slowly, letting your hand graze the walls. The plaster is rough, patched, repaired countless times over the centuries. The tide has left its mark here, staining the lower stones dark where the lagoon has risen again and again. Yet the walls endure. Venice has always endured. A city built not on solid ground, but on waterlogged soil and wooden pilings. It should not exist, and yet it does, not only surviving, but thriving for more than 1,000 years. As you follow the curve of another canal, you recall the origins of this improbable city. In the early centuries of the first millennium, refugees fled invasions on the mainland, seeking safety in the marshy islands of the lagoon. Here, in these shifting sands and waters, they built their homes on timber foundations, driven deep into the mud. What began as a refuge grew into a republic, and what was once a cluster of huts became one of the greatest powers of the Mediterranean. You stop at a bridge and look down. The water ripples softly, reflecting the faint light of a lantern. Beneath the surface lies not only the city's foundation, but its lifeblood. Venice rose to power not through armies, but through trade. Its ships sailed to Constantinople, Alexandria, Damascus, and beyond, carrying spices, silk, and glass. The lagoon was its shield, the sea its highway, commerce its weapon. The stones beneath your feet once echoed with the footsteps of merchants, sailors, and envoys whose journeys shaped the destiny of continents. Turning another corner, you come upon the shadow of a grand palazzo. Its facade, though faded, still speaks of wealth and power. Arched windows rise in graceful symmetry, balconies carved with delicate stone tracery. At night, the palazzo is silent, its doors closed, its interior hidden. But centuries ago, such houses were alive with music and revelry, their halls filled with masks, laughter, and whispered bargains. The Venetian Republic was built as much in these palaces as in its councils, where trade deals and alliances were struck over feasts and festivities. You walk onward, the city guiding you deeper into its history. The Doge's palace is not far, and though you saw it earlier near San Marco, now its memory lingers stronger. For centuries, it was the seat of Venice's power, the place where decisions were made that rippled across the world. From its chambers, fleets were dispatched, laws were proclaimed, and justice was meted out. The Doge, elected for life, was both symbol and servant of the Republic, bound by traditions that balanced grandeur with restraint. Even now, at midnight, the palace seems present, a shadow of authority lingering in the silence. You pause at a small square where the paving stones slope slightly, worn by centuries of use. A shrine rests in the corner, its candles flickering, their light golden against the night. Shrines like this are scattered across Venice, reminders of faith woven into daily life. But they are also symbols of resilience. Venice faced not only tides and trade, but plagues, fires, and wars. Time and again, the city bent, but it did not break. Its survival is written not only in its stones, but in the prayers of those who lived here, whispered into the night, across generations. As you continue your walk, you pass a row of buildings marked by Gothic windows, their pointed arches and delicate tracery softened by age. The style is unmistakably Venetian, blending Byzantine, Islamic, and Western influences into something unique. This was the true genius of Venice, not to conquer by force, but to absorb, to adapt, to take the beauty of other cultures and weave it into its own. The city is a mosaic, built from fragments of East and West. Its architecture, a story told in stone. You reach another bridge, this one arching higher than most. From its crest, the view opens wide, revealing a longer canal lined with more palazzi. Their reflections stretch across the water, wavering gently in the current. In the distance, a bell tower leans slightly, its shadow crooked but steady. You stand there, thinking of how many times this scene has repeated itself. The water, the buildings, the bells, and yet how much has changed around it. Empires have risen and fallen, but Venice remains. The silence of the night seems to amplify the weight of history. You imagine the sound of oars dipping into the water centuries ago, the creak of sails unfurling as ships departed for distant ports. You picture masked figures moving through these alleys, their laughter echoing in hidden courtyards during carnival. when identity was dissolved and freedom found. You think of the council chambers where men debated in whispers, deciding the fate of nations. All of it feels present, layered invisibly atop the quiet stones you walk tonight. You turn into another alley, this one lined with arches at its base. The ground level is empty now, the doors closed. But once these were workshops and warehouses. Venice was a city of makers, as well as traders, glass from Murano, lace from Burano, ships from the Arsenale. The Arsenale itself, that vast shipyard where fleets were built in record time, is silent now, but its memory still fuels the pride of the city. To think of what was accomplished here, in a city built on water, is to marvel at human determination and ingenuity. The night deepens further, and the city grows stiller. The echoes of history grow louder in the silence, not spoken but felt. Venice has always been a paradox, fragile yet enduring, isolated yet connected, vulnerable yet powerful. To walk its streets at midnight is to feel those contradictions woven into every stone. The city's past is not locked away in museums or books. It is alive, in the rhythm of the canals, in the curve of bridges, in the flicker of lanterns against old plaster walls. You pause once more at a bridge, gazing down into the dark water. The reflection of the lantern trembles, as if the city itself were alive beneath the surface. And perhaps it is. Venice has always existed in two worlds, the one above the water and the one below, hidden, waiting, remembered. Its history lies in both, enduring as surely as the tides. When you move on again, it is with a deeper awareness. The alleys are the same, the canals unchanged, the night still calm. But you walk differently now, more attuned to the voices beneath the silence, to the centuries that linger in every shadow. Venice is not only a city of the present, it is a city of memory, history, and endurance. And tonight, beneath the stars, you walk through all of it at once. The night has grown deep, the hour late, yet Venice shows no sign of weariness. Instead, it feels timeless, suspended between worlds. The alleys are empty now, the tavernas quiet, the palazzi silent, but above, the heavens have opened, and below, the water reflects them in endless, shimmering patterns. To walk Venice at this hour is to walk not only through a city, but through a constellation of light and shadow, stars and reflections, all woven into one. You pause on a bridge, leaning against the stone balustrade. The canal below is still, so still it mirrors the sky with near perfection. Stars scatter across its surface, their shapes distorted only slightly by the faint ripple of the tide. For a moment, it feels as though you are standing not on a bridge above water, but on a threshold between two skies, the one above, infinite, and the one below, fragile and trembling. The stars are unusually clear tonight. Venice, removed from the glare of mainland cities, allows the night sky to reveal itself in full. Orion strides across the heavens, his belt of 3 stars, sharp and distinct. To the north, Cassiopeia reclines, her W-shape unmistakable against the darker sky. The Pleiades sparkle like a cluster of jewels, delicate and ephemeral. The North Star holds steady, eternal, the same guide sailors have trusted for millennia. It is impossible to look at these constellations and not think of the past. Venetian sailors once charted their courses by these very stars, guiding their ships across the Adriatic and into the wider Mediterranean. The lagoon itself may have been their shelter, but the stars were their compass, their assurance of direction in uncharted seas. To see them here, mirrored in the canals, is to see both history and eternity at once. A breeze stirs, and the reflections shift, the stars trembling on the water's surface. The palazzi, too, appear mirrored below arches, windows, balconies, stretching into the canal, as though another Venice lies beneath, inverted, ghostly, yet somehow more luminous than the one above. In this city, reflections are as real as reality. Water transforms stone into light, multiplying beauty, into infinity. You leave the bridge and walk further into the alleys, drawn toward another square. Here, a small canal opens, its surface unbroken, a perfect mirror. A lantern glows on the wall above, its light scattering downward into the water, stretching into a golden trail that seems to lead into the depths. Above it, the moon shines full, its reflection almost as bright as the orb itself. You stand between them, your shadow elongated, stretched across stone and water alike. The moon has always been part of Venice's rhythm. Its pull shapes the tides, which rise and fall through the canals, sometimes gently, sometimes flooding the squares. Venetians call it acqua alta, the high water, when the lagoon asserts itself over the stones. Tonight, however, the tide is calm. The moon's power is felt not in intrusion, but in illumination, bathing the city in silver light, softening its edges, deepening its shadows. You move again, the sound of your footsteps softened by the vast silence. Overhead, the stars continue their slow arc, while below, the canals weave them into liquid constellations. The effect is dizzying. Venice feels less like a city on earth, and more like one suspended between heavens and waters, a place where boundaries dissolve. From another bridge, you watch a gondola drift slowly past. It carries no tourists, no chatter, no songs, only a gondolier, guiding it home for the night. His oar dips quietly into the water, creating ripples that scatter the reflections. Stars break apart, stretch, then reform in shimmering trails. The sound of the oar, soft and rhythmic, blends with the sigh of the water. For a moment, you are certain that the gondola is gliding not through a canal, but through the very sky itself, its prow cutting across galaxies. You continue your walk until you reach a wider canal, one of the arteries that feed into the Grand Canal itself. Here, the reflections are more dramatic. Lights from distant palazzi scatter in golden streaks, reaching across the water like fingers of fire. Above, the stars compete, their silver brilliance mingling with the man-made glow. The scene is almost overwhelming, too much light, too much beauty, too much depth. And yet, Venice holds it all with quiet grace. You lean against the railing and let your gaze drift upward once more. The sky feels endless, eternal. The stars are the same ones seen by Marco Polo as he departed for the east, by merchants returning from Alexandria, by doges gazing from their palaces. They have watched over Venice through centuries of triumph and trial, constancy amidst change. And tonight, they watch over you, a solitary figure wandering through alleys and reflections, sharing in the same eternal wonder. A shooting star streaks across the heavens, brief but brilliant. Its reflection follows instantly, mirrored in the canal below. Two trails of light, one above, one below, burn for a heartbeat, then fade into darkness. The moment is fleeting, but unforgettable, like so much of Venice itself. As the night deepens further, you make your way back toward the quieter alleys. The reflections continue to accompany you, in every canal, in every pool of water left by the tide. Each one holds a fragment of the sky, a reminder that in Venice, you walk not only among stones and bridges, but among stars and dreams. The city exists in duality, forever mirrored, forever doubled, a place where reality and imagination blur. You pause one final time at a bridge, gazing at the stars above and the stars below. Your reflection joins them now, stretched long and wavering, part of the pattern of light and shadow. In this moment, you feel deeply connected, not only to the city, but to the universe itself. Venice is not merely a place on a map, but a place between worlds, a city that belongs as much to the heavens as to the earth. And as you leave the bridge, continuing your midnight walk, the stars follow you above in the infinite sky, and below in the quiet waters of the canals. ChatGPT said, "Perfect 2. Let's conclude with part 8. Closing reflections of a midnight walk in Venice, gondolas, lanterns, and hidden canals. This section is Tank characters. 1. 600 words. Written as a calm, reflective ending to the journey. It ties together the imagery of water, history, food, stars, and hidden alleys into a soft closing, ideal for a long-form narration to fall asleep to. A Midnight Walk in Venice, Part 8. Closing reflections. The hour has grown late. The tavernas have gone dark, their chairs stacked, their lanterns extinguished. The laughter that once echoed through the campos has faded into memory, replaced now by silence so deep it feels almost sacred. Venice at midnight has given way to Venice in its truest form, quiet, eternal, suspended between water and sky. You pause on another bridge, leaning against the cool stone. The canal below is still, disturbed only by the faint ripple of tide against its walls. The reflection of a lantern glimmers faintly, trembling, then steadies again. Above, the stars remain sharp and clear, Orion's belt cutting across the heavens, Cassiopeia reclining, the Pleiades shimmering like scattered jewels. Between sky and water, Venice floats, luminous and dreamlike. You think back on where this journey has taken you. From the Grand Canal at the station, where gondolas rocked gently against their posts, to the Rialto Bridge, arching proudly over centuries of trade. From the twisting alleys and quiet courtyards where cats slipped silently through the night, to Piazza San Marco, vast and golden even in silence. From the gondolas moored along the lagoon, their hulls rocking softly in the moonlight, to the hidden canals where time seemed to pause. From tavernas filled with cicchetti and laughter, to shrines glowing faintly with candlelight. From the weight of history carved into palazzi and doges' palaces, to the infinite stars mirrored in the water. Each step has revealed another facet of the city, another secret whispered into the night. Venice is often described as fragile, a city threatened by tides and time. And yet, as you walk these silent alleys, you feel not fragility but endurance. 1,000 years have passed, and still the city stands. Built on wooden pilings driven into mud, balanced precariously between water and sky, it has outlasted empires, storms, and floods. Its resilience is written in every stone, every bridge, every reflection. Venice survives not despite its fragility, but because of it. Its beauty lies in the balance, the constant dance with the lagoon, the ability to endure while appearing weightless, dreamlike. You walk slowly now, savoring the last moments of your midnight journey. The alleys twist and turn, familiar now, their walls painted in shades of ochre and rose, their shutters closed tight for the night. A single lantern flickers ahead, guiding your way. The air is cool, carrying with it the scent of salt and damp stone, mingled faintly with jasmine from a balcony above. The silence is complete, yet never empty, always filled with the subtle rhythm of water, the faint hum of a city that never fully sleeps. At last, you return to the lagoon's edge. The gondolas are still there, moored to their posts, rising and falling in their endless cradle. The breeze carries the sharp scent of the sea, refreshing, eternal. Across the water, San Giorgio Maggiore watches, its silhouette sharp against the horizon. The moon's reflection stretches across the lagoon, a silver path leading into the infinite. You sit on a low stone wall and gaze outward. The water glimmers, the stars shimmer, the city glows faintly behind you. Venice feels eternal in this moment, as though it exists outside of time, suspended between memory and dream. You close your eyes and listen the water against the stone, the faint creak of wood, the distant toll of a bell marking the hour. It is a lullaby, timeless and steady, a reminder that the city's true rhythm is not hurried, not loud, but calm and enduring. When you open your eyes, the reflections are still there, waiting. Venice reflects everything: the stars above, the lanterns of the city, the memories of its past, the dreams of its future. To walk here is to walk not only through a place, but through a mirror of time and space, through a city that is as much illusion as it is reality. You rise slowly, taking one final look. The gondolas sleep, the lagoon breathes, the stars shine above and below, and Venice silent, eternal remains. As you turn to leave, you know that the memory will stay with you, not only of what you saw, but of what you felt. The calm, the beauty, the timelessness. Venice at midnight is not just a city, it is an experience, a dream, a reflection, and with that, your midnight walk in Venice comes to a close.